Hello and welcome back to the Sex and Healing podcast. I'm your host, Erin Kyna, and thank you so much for joining me as we take this wild ride together through the realms of sex and healing. So today's guest is someone very special in my world at the moment. It's my very own personal trainer, Michael Gregory. Welcome, Michael.
Hi.
I'm very excited to share Michael with you because we've been on an amazing journey for the last 6 months. And actually, Michael's back in America at the moment. And I've been training without you, Michael. I have been as committed to it, whether you're here or not. So I think for anyone that knows me knows what a testament that is to what a trainer you
hmm
are, that you can get me to the point that I enjoy it so much. And I'm this committed that I'm doing it without even having a trainer present. So well done on being the first and only trainer to ever help me achieve that. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself and who you are and how you got to be where you are today?
Sure. It's kind of a roundabout story, so I guess I'll give like the highlights, and then I think we can poke into whatever you want to poke into. But um, originally from the States, right? I joined I guess like a lot of people my age, I joined the military when uh, when it was time for me to decide what to do with my life. So I became a Marine, a U.S. Marine, and I did a cool job. I feel like it was a cool job. I got hooked up in the intelligence community, and I ended up spending a few years bouncing around Asian countries, teaching Asian militaries and governments how the U.S. military does stuff. That's like in a nutshell what I did. I also
Mhm.
taught Marine Corps martial arts while in there. It was like a kind of secondary job. I had a few other secondary jobs as well. Um, and in that process, kind of the Marine Corps martial arts was kind of my excuse to get Marines training to be able to talk to my Marines about uh, getting in shape. Like there's kind of this stereotype that people in the military are in good shape, but I'll tell you firsthand that that's not really the case. Actually, it's like begrudgingly in good shape and good enough shape is how most people in the military are. And at least in the United States, like the Marine Corps is supposed to be like the top one of the four services, like not including the special forces, but it was still like, man, the creatures that they let in, and they're all excellent human beings, but it's just the public education system and private education system in the states really fails a lot of people. We'll put it that way when it comes on to a health front. So
Mhm.
um, I use that as an excuse to talk about fitness and nutrition and stuff with my Marines. And it was always something I was passionate about. In college, before I joined the Marine Corps, I was lucky enough that they paid for school for me. Um, I studied economics. So I studied economics. I did intelligence in the military, and now I'm a fitness professional, like doing nutrition and fitness stuff, and now meditation stuff as well, officially, formally. I'm willing to say that. Um, and it's kind of like this scatter shot of things, but the kind of general theme is just of all of those things for me has been thinking deeper and being able to make individual decisions. Like what economics is like discovering the incentives for why people do things. What
Mm.
intelligence is finding the things that we need to figure out in order to influence somebody else's incentives. So it's kind of like one more step removed. And then all this health and fitness stuff is the exact same thing, just on a personal level as I did in the intelligence world or from an economics perspective. So it's kind of the general thread of my life has been showing people how to think harder and work smarter, in a nutshell. So my time in the Marine Corps is done. Sorry, this is long winded. My
I
time in the
love
Marine
it.
Corps
I
is
love
done.
it.
Um, and my lovely wife, Megan, decided that, excuse me, that I needed a break, that it was time for me to take 6 months off. So she had a job lined up as a yoga teacher in Bali. And I was going to take a 6 month hiatus before I went and found some job in DC with some agency doing something, right? I was qualified to do a bunch of stuff, so whatever. And that 6-month vacation is now been 4 years of us living in Bali, and like this 2 weeks here back in the States is a brief respite from our otherwise normal and lovely life in Bali. So that's me in a nutshell, without getting too much into my professional credentials or that other stuff that doesn't really matter. That it's just stuff that people put on resumes. That's my story. How's that sound?
That's awesome, Michael. Like I never would have picked that common thread amongst those things that, those careers that you'd had. And actually, I'm very good at spotting patterns. So I hadn't seen that. But now that you've pointed that out, that does make me realize, like, to hit the nail on the head, why I love you as a trainer, because I'm also exceptionally deep and I'm always looking for depth in everything that I do. And I get very, very bored being in the shallows or in the superficiality of anything. So the fact that you bring so much depth and so much insight, and we can talk about anything in you, you put up with a lot from me.
Yeah.
You put up with me in all of my moods and 100 different things on my plate. And you hear me talk about my mom, and you hear me talk about my wild, crazy sex stories, and you hear me talk about my work. And like, you're able to be present with me in all of that, and consistent and unchanging, and actually offer insight and support and all of that. And that's very rare. And I appreciate it so, so much. So thank you.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. And I think that that's where the like kind of meditation aspect has really started folding into this thing I call a career for me, as well as like, because all those things is okay, figuring out what makes people tick, but then actually being able to sit and listen and fully comprehend what somebody's saying, or what their deeper reasons are for doing something, especially when it comes to fitness. It's so important because you get somebody in the gym and it's like, you treat them like a machine, they're not gonna continue to come back. But you treat them like a human and like get to the deeper reasons why they want to be in there, or what motivates them to keep coming back. And all of a sudden, I didn't know how long you and I were together, but we're well over 6 months now. It's like just flowing.
Yeah, and it's not going to stop either. That's what's so fucking cool. Is like, I've hit a point now that I realize this is not about a short-term goal or some sort of fix to a problem, but it's actually a feeling that I've loved, and it's brought so much value to my life, mentally and emotionally and energetically and physically, that I would not want to stop now. Given that how long it took to get to this place, like the momentum and the commitment that it takes, like to stop now would be the stupidest thing that I could do, because I've hit this stride where it feels good. And, my partner said something to me as well when I was getting a bit, I don't know, disheartened with results, because it had always been about results for me. And he said to me, you can't do what you're doing every day or 3 or 4 times a week and your body not change. He's like, your entire body is functioning differently because of what you're doing. It doesn't matter whether you see a result or not. And that was like the biggest switch for me in my head, to get out of that results-based, doing this to fix a problem kind of mentality, which leaves you kind of vulnerable to mood or vulnerable to emotion. Because if you perceive yourself getting the results you want, then you feel super elevated. And if you perceive that you're not getting the results you want, you feel super depressed about it. And actually, that's just eliminated that from my entire assessment of why I'm doing it and why I choose to continue doing it now. Even when I'm disgruntled and you're here and training's boring and I have to go set up all the weights on my own and there's no one to put up with me when I'm grumpy and to talk me through, like to distract me. But I'm still there. I'm still there with your cats doing my training.
Yeah, well, that's actually what they're there for.
Yeah, exactly. To distract Erin from being so grumpy. I need a bit of protection. I'd love to share with you about what your wife Megan told me, which made me think I have to interview Michael, because this really is a healing journey as well, as I see it anyway, is that you've come from the military. How many years were you in the military?
A little over 5. But well, it's hard to say because I had to do military things while I was in school. So like they were paying me for 10 years. Put it that way.
Okay. So like the process of being militarized, they're basically taking your mind and taking your body and getting you to function as they want. So it's less about Michael as an
Mm-hmm.
individual and more so about the role that you perform. And
Mm-hmm.
what I do in my job is the opposite of that. I take
Mm-hmm.
people away from these roles that they perform in the world and help them understand who they are as an individual, and then share who they are as an individual with the world. So I remember Megan told me about the first time that you went to ecstatic dance and you still had your buzz cut. You were that fresh from the military and you just kind of stood up the
it's like
back, all
3
rigid,
weeks
like,
out. Yeah.
what the fuck is this? And when I've seen you
Mhm.
at ecstatic dance, you're completely free. You know, you're completely embodied. Your hair is long. You move to music. You're just so you now. And we talk about this a lot sometimes. Like, I laugh at you because you really just don't care what anyone thinks ever. Like, you're just so you. So what was that journey like from going so, you know, so militarized, of being a product of what the military wants you to be, to discovering who it is that you are?
Well, I guess this is kind of a long train of thought, so just cut me off if ever you feel like interjecting. But it's a funny thing because I always viewed myself in the Marine Corps as like almost an anti-Marine. Like the fact that I was in intelligence and what I did, like the standard idea of what people think about somebody in the military is like you're in a unit of people walking through a jungle or a desert somewhere with a rifle, going to fight war. It's like my job was I was by myself, operating out of hotel rooms, different military bases, flying on private planes, and like all kinds of stuff by myself, doing whatever I wanted. Essentially, as long as I showed up, made sure I did my job. Like I had a very not normal military career, and I was good for that. That's why I got picked for that job, because they could see that I was a little bit different. But at the same time, when I got out, I was like, yeah, you know, I was this guy, I was that guy, you know, the guy doing his own thing. So I don't need to worry about transitioning, like quote, transitioning out of the military. And that, like, let's say for 6 months out of the military, like the story you're talking about, the first exciting dance, that was literally like day 10, you know, in Bali. So like I was just out of the military. I was still scheduling everything. I was very uptight. So it took literally 6 months probably for me to like kind of first recognize that I was wired a certain way. And I don't want to say it's necessarily bad, because it was good for the function that I was serving when I was in the military, in the Marine Corps. And I was a perfectly fine human being. It just wasn't who I am now. You know, and it's interesting, like, I think that everybody could benefit from a little bit of both, right? Like that everybody puts their own individual flair on figuring out how they fit into the larger puzzle. And what the Marine Corps kind of offers is a place for you to put yourself into the puzzle. And you don't need to necessarily put your own flair on it, so to say. And I kind of desired that. I wanted that, so I had to figure out how to get out of that, out of that headspace, and just be okay with not caring, like social situations in the Marine Corps, where especially in Japan, the base that we were living on was like, I don't know, like 3,000 service members or something like that, and officers were 1/5 of that or 1/10 of that, so that we're in the hundreds, right? Like a couple of hundred of us. So whenever we had social events, it was people that I worked with. And oftentimes it was many people that outranked me, many people that controlled the fate of my future, you know, that wrote fitness reports on me, like that kind of stuff. So I was always looking over my shoulder. I was always, you know, conscious of who was in the room, who was looking at me, who potentially might, you know, how does that person think? So then how do I think that they'll perceive my actions? So let me try to change my actions to ensure that their perception of what I'm doing is what I want it to be. You see how like crazy and manipulative that is?
No, honestly, I think that's almost everyone in the world until they really find themselves. I ended up catching up with a couple of girls from high school, which was super weird and unexpected, on Zoom the other day. Like it's been 20 something years since high school. And one of them's just gone through a divorce, and she said she's starting a new job at a new place, and now she gets to be someone new, and she gets to think, who do I want to be? to these people. And in my mind, I was like, you? Like, not a version of you, not someone you're trying to portray. But for me, I'm just Erin being Erin 100% of the time. Like, of course, I can bring a nurturing side of Erin out if that's appropriate, or a more assertive side of Erin if that's appropriate. But essentially, I'm always Erin. But I don't think many people have reached it. I think what you're thinking, what you're sharing now, of like, who are these people? What do they think of me? What influence do they have on me? What do I need to present? Is just, yes, it's manipulative, but it's incredibly common. I think most people walk through the world just like completely consumed by that. What do people think of me, and who do I need to be?
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Do you like, there's this feeling of, I don't really have it anymore. Like occasionally, but not really. But like dread, like just waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm guessing, like, I don't know, like, do you feel that? I think that that's part of the thing that forces people to act a certain way, is that they're always just kind of like, well, something bad's going to happen soon, so I need to make sure that I'm doing whatever to check myself.
Yeah, I only have it circumstantially, like when I decided to get new curtains in my place and I was worried that the owners wouldn't like it, so I just did it anyway. And was like, I'd rather get in trouble later, but if I ask in advance, they might say no, but I really want new curtains. So I was walking around with this feeling like, oh, I could get in trouble. But it's only minor. It's not like an existential dread that I feel about life in general, but I've certainly been there.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, like the more I talk to people, I feel like more people have that than I ever realized before. And you're probably right. Like, that isn't just unique to the military. Maybe it was turned up a little bit, but maybe not. For how some people live their life. I've noticed, just like, it's funny, we were just at Target, so like we were just at this giant store, and everybody's doing their Christmas shopping. Megan and I are out there getting a couple of things, and it was overwhelming, first of all. Just like
versus Bali. Fuck, I could not go to an American Target store at Christmas time. I would be overwhelmed.
Absolute chaos. But the one thing I was looking at, and Megan and I have this conversation often, is just like looking at everybody and like trying to like identify what their internal dialogue is, and you can kind of see, just, man, I don't like to be negative, but a lot of people just look sad. And I think that that's part of it. I don't know.
I think that's a snapshot of the life that you're in now in America, and I sometimes forget. I've been having this conversation quite a bit lately as well. It's like, I surround myself, like what it takes to live here in Bali requires a lot of courage, a desire for freedom, or we value freedom, but we can't go and get a comfortable job and take it easy in Bali. You can't exist here. You're forced into putting yourself on the edge, working for yourself, finding your purpose. So we're surrounded by people like that, which is fucking fantastic. But if you put me back into suburbia, if you put me back into where these people from my high school, the kind of existence that they're still living, then it's just a completely different state of mind. And it, like, I just can't do it. Like, my soul fucking hurts. I know some people come and make Bali work for a bit and then they go back. And sometimes they get a bit unhappy that they're back in their regular lives and they dream about Bali again. Like, I could not go back. There's just something inside me that can't go back to that existence. And I feel that whenever I go, especially the places where I grew up, I have a stronger aversion because I remember the energy of what it felt like to be me in those circumstances. So I go back to where my high school was and I'm like, I want to die. This is hell. But there's people that I went to high school with that still live in that fucking suburb, that their kids probably go to the schools that we went to. And I'm like, that is just my worst nightmare. So yeah, I think a lot of people are unhappy in those circumstances, and yet that is a bit of the norm. Like, they're surrounded by people who also think like they do, and they hear things on the radio like that, and the people at their job all talk about the same things on the weekend. So it becomes normalized to live in that state.
And like, you know, I think that this conversation happens so often, especially people that live in Bali, like, oh, everyone should just travel and get out there and do all these other things. And I'm not opposed to that. And I don't necessarily think that that would be a bad thing for everyone, but it's certainly not practical for everyone. But I find myself thinking, you know, I think about empowerment a lot, right? And this is what you do with the sexual empowerment stuff with everyone that you work with. And I like to think about it from kind of like a strength perspective. is like, I think a lot of these people don't understand how much power they actually have. So
Mm-hmm.
they're just kind of like floating with these dead looking faces on, floating through life. And I just wonder like how different their life could be. Like they don't need to move to Bali, but if they could get a little bit
Correct.
of taste of like how empowering that feels to have the strength and the willpower and the ability to go and out on an adventure like that. And I honestly, like in a micro way, I think that that's possible in the gym. That's my
Mm.
idealized version of it. But um, I don't know. In your experience, like from working with me, how you already said a little bit like how your perspective has changed, but like we know, like you and I've talked about it so many times, how different your attitude is just from the
Mm.
start of a session to the end of the
Yeah, thank you.
session, right? Not always, but whenever you come in and you're not feeling like it, then by the end of the session, you're like, all right, this is awesome.
Yep.
Life's
Yep.
good.
Exactly. It is empowerment, and it's empowerment that I take into other areas of my life as well, which is what I think both of
Mm,
us do is we help our clients in our field. And
mm,
my course Worship, I say it's liberation through sexuality. It's actually about all the other aspects of life that get benefited from us
mm,
embracing and empowering our sexuality, rather than just saying this is a course about sex. This is actually a course about your
mm,
own personal power and what it feels
mm,
like to walk through the world as a very different person when you are holding your personal power. But I agree, like
mm.
it doesn't have to look like your life or my life. And I think a lot of people do
Right.
get confused. I weirdly get this comment a lot, but people often say to me, I just want to be you. Like I wish I was
Mm,
Erin Kyna, which is
mm,
flattering, but also slightly strange to me. But
mm.
sometimes they get tripped up because they're like, but I couldn't leave my life behind, or I've got kids, or I've got this or that. And I'm like, but what you're seeing in me is not actually about my external life. What you're seeing in me is the fact that I'm living my purpose and the fact that I'm very
Mm,
connected to who I am and I get to share that with the world. And there is a light and a radiance and a joy that comes from me just being me that other
mhm,
people are drawn to. And then they
mhm.
can have that, but the expression of that is going to look completely different for every single one of us. Like
For
that has got
sure.
nothing to do with being single. It's got nothing to do with like having children. It's got nothing to do with where you live on the planet. It's about understanding who you are and then being who
Mhm.
you are in the world unapologetically, being
Yeah.
very connected to that so that as the external
Mm,
circumstances change, you don't lose that connection with self. You don't modify yourself. But I think what you're
mhm,
saying there with the military, I think that they had such an influence over the future of you. There were so many
mhm.
consequences for you based on doing the right thing or the wrong thing that it makes sense that it would completely preoccupy you. And perhaps there's some people that still live in a family or a society or a culture where they feel bigger consequences for what they do. I'm lucky to be very independent and don't really have anything that I care about in that sense. It's just me in the world. So I can do what I want without fear of consequence.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I was actually just thinking as you were saying that as well. Like, I think that the reason that a lot of people um, aren't able to be that like pure version of themselves is exactly that. They're attached to whatever structure, whatever preconceived notion or organization that is telling them how they have to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really difficult because I want people to feel like they belong, but not at an expense of who they who they are,
Mm.
you know.
Yep, you're exactly right. I think we have all been conditioned and influenced and manipulated by the world to be something that benefits others, whether that's our family
Mhm,
and what they want for us and what they think it means about them if we turn out a certain
mhm,
way, or what it means for our socioeconomic class or
mhm,
whatever it might be. And the consequences of becoming very true to yourself, it's almost guaranteed to be some sort of loss. Like there will be some sort of conflict and difficulty with those people as you start to step out of those structures and
mhm.
step more into yourself. And that takes a lot of fucking courage that not everyone has. Not everyone's willing
For sure.
to put it all on the
Mhm,
line to find themselves. But fuck, once you
mhm.
do, it is the most incredibly rewarding, fulfilling life that it all makes it worthwhile in the end. And whatever you lose
Yeah,
is replaced with a quality of relationship so much greater.
yeah, fully. And I think it's so silly because actually, like, if you're worried about being able to serve those around you or something, so you're trying to stay in these structures, um, the way that you're able to most benefit everyone around you is by fully being yourself the most that you possibly can be, because then you're doing it not with some sense of duty or some sense of obligation. I think would be better to put it that way, but instead you're doing it out of the pureness of your heart, which
Mm.
um, is a good thing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's about the source of energy becomes infinite. If I'm
Hmm.
doing it from a place of I should do this or I'm obligated to do this, then I'm using a finite energy source. And it's like, fuck, that's so draining. Or
Interesting.
fuck, I can't be fucked to do that. But when it's the truth
Yeah,
of my
that's so
heart, I
true.
can't fucking not do it. Like, if I had a
Yeah.
friend over on Saturday and we are just hanging out, and I was saying, I don't think I'm going to take any one-to-one clients next year. I just want to do my courses, but I feed on people's transformation. So I thought I needed
Mhm.
one-to-one so that I got that really strong sense of satisfaction from my work. But actually, worship has become so transformational for people. I feed off that so much. But I noticed that
Mhm.
if I'm not getting that need met to transform people, then I'm just like, can I give you a healing? So she came over on Saturday and I was like, I must heal you now. I'm sorry, I must.
Mhm.
It's like this energy pours out of me and I have to use it. I have to apply it. So,
Mhm.
like, I can do that forever because it's just the true essence of who I am rather than
Mhm.
trying to be something. Even the tiniest task that's not in alignment these days is so fucking
Mhm.
draining for me and so difficult for me to complete. I'm really trying to get a
Mhm.
life of radical alignment where everything is true to who I am and nothing outside of that.
Mhm.
That's a big commitment, but it's
Yeah, it's a
possible.
lot of work. Yeah. Well,
It's a
you're
lot of
certainly on
breaking
that.
down structures and like
Mhm.
expectations and letting people
Yeah.
down. Fuck. Because a lot of people still want you to behave like that. And a lot of people still
Mhm.
buy into that and are triggered and jealous and confused and don't like
Mhm.
that you can be so independent and not really care about things like that. Like
Mhm.
it's important to surround yourself with other people who support you in being true to themselves. Because I think if you and I were like, Erin,
Mhm.
this isn't working anymore for us to be training together because my life's going off in this direction, I
Mhm.
would support that unconditionally. Of course, I'd be sad that I'd lose my trainer and I'd lose
Mhm.
what I'd get from you. But actually, my biggest value is that you're true to yourself. I don't want you being less than true to yourself. So I wouldn't want you to stay. But I
Yeah, well,
think
I would
if you're
start
more,
doing a subpar job, right?
mm.
Like if it didn't feel aligned anymore. Lucky for you, I probably will always do in-person clients just because they're so valuable. So you don't have to worry about that right now.
Yay. And the universe delivered you to me right down the street.
Yeah.
Like the chances of me finding a
Yeah.
personal trainer like you with the depth that you have in this country are very, very
Mhm.
slim. And of course, the universe just works in miraculous fucking ways and you live on my street.
Yeah.
That's fucking amazing. So let's talk
Yeah.
about the
That's a
meditation then and how
yeah.
meditation came to and how it shows up in your life now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had always, when I say always, like I started doing it in the Marine Corps because I knew that I was burning out. I knew that I was like super stressed and I wasn't necessarily coping in the right way. And only just in the past couple of months have things kind of started to come full circle for me with how the meditation applies. Because I was always working out, right? I was
Mhm.
always in really good shape. I was always working out really hard when I was in the Marine Corps. It was my coping mechanism, right?
Mhm.
But I was training in a way that was unsustainable for me or reinforcing negative habits.
Mhm.
So like maybe as a form of punishment or as like like you're not good enough yet, so you need to do this and get better type of
Mhm.
way. So there's like this negative feedback loop that I was getting from training. Even though I was getting in better shape, I wasn't necessarily feeling better about myself. Um, so not fully recognizing that back then, I started looking into meditation just because Megan was doing the yoga thing all the time, and meditation is at least like kind of associated with yoga, although there are some people that wouldn't necessarily fully agree, but that's another topic. So I just started doing it, and when we moved here to Bali, I really started getting into um, like a Vipassana style meditation that we did with Pakmerta at the Bali Usada Health Meditation Center there in Bali, which was super cool. I did a retreat with them, a silent retreat with them, and like realized that I was really actually getting a lot out of it. And it was helping me be less reactive and kind of like just be myself more, not let other people dictate how I viewed the world, let's say. And only recently, like I put two and two together and realized that what I ended up doing back in the beginning, it was like the typical things like I had the Headspace app, or I did Insight Timer, like I did all these different guided meditation things before I really, the journey develops as you move along. Only recently did I realize that what I was doing there was trying to reinforce the positive things that I wanted to get out of my training. They were separate at that point. And now the way that I literally just posted on Facebook today, a free, what I'm calling like mindful exercise guided meditation course. It's 12 days, and it's just like short, different types of meditation to help with whatever your issue might be. I say issue, but like whatever your train of thought might be when you exercise. So like, people will often go to the gym and like use it as a form of punishment, or maybe look at other people in the gym and say, well, what's even the point? Is this even doing anything? Or if things are going really well, how to like sustain that, or like mentally prepare yourself for when you get injured or you stop progressing in the way that you're going to progress. So like that's kind of what it looks at. But like what I did was use that meditation to realign my training, so that instead of using it to tell myself that I wasn't enough, using it in a way to tell myself that like, hey, look at everything I accomplished, type of thing. And that's really where I'm taking my business, the Composure Fitness, in that direction, to use the two kind of synergistically in a way that allows the mental practices, the mental training, the meditation, to reinforce the workouts. And you and I kind of did this unconsciously, just because it's what I've always been doing with all of my clients, just not recognizing it. But we kind of did it in a way that's like, okay, yeah, in the beginning you came in and it was kind of like kind of goals oriented, like kind of like I want to look like this, sort of. And then over time it's like, hey, look at this satisfaction, like look at what you can get out of this in each session, and how you can like start to view yourself in a way that you didn't used to, that you probably prefer. So I hope that answers the question. I don't know. I'm not trying to like plug myself too much, but
no, I'd love it.
I just see them working so clear. They can so clearly work in an obvious like synergy with each other, the mental training and physical training, or they can completely butt heads with each other. And that's where I think most standard views on meditation and types of exercise, like if you took somebody that like does CrossFit every day and had them do like loving kindness meditation, like they would quit one of those in a week. You know what I mean? Because they don't see how they could fit together. But they totally can, given the proper context and like introduction, I guess.
Yeah. And I fucking love it. And I think because I've always identified with being a spiritual person, I never, the body wasn't something that I had completely clicked in to my spiritual purpose, I guess, or my spiritual understanding. I was like, the body, we're here being human, but I was so more drawn to the esoteric things and the unseen things and the mind and the energy and the emotions. And it really is only the last couple of years that I've seen that actually the body is an integral part of our spiritual experience. And certainly it's the integral part of our sexual experience. And for me, my sexual experience is my spiritual experience. So I can't be doing that without my body. And I can't be doing that with a body that I just, it does its thing. It gets along. It's fine. That's kind of my attitude. It wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It was fine. So it didn't require my energy or my attention. And now what I see is actually when I give my body the energy and the attention that it needs to be at its optimum, because I'm such an overachiever. I don't know why I had never, well, actually I do. I'll talk about that in a second. But now that I'm seeing that the body, it fits in to the whole spiritual model. And prior to now, I have not found someone who can meet me in all these other priorities of mine, in all these other values, who can also see how the body and the physical fitness fits into the spiritual model. So I would kind of have to step out of my alignment and out of my zone with the people that I love and talk about the things that I love, and then go into the mainstream fitness industry and go to a gym and deal with a standard personal trainer. And I'm not going to get joy there. I'm not going to be connected to that person. They're not going to understand me. We're going to be working on a completely different level of thought to how I operate. So I think it's fucking genius what you've done. And I too just see it working so perfectly together and can't believe that the whole world's not doing this yet.
Yeah, I guess it takes intention, and a lot of people don't act intentionally. So that might be the issue.
I always laugh that I'm just looking for the top 10% of anything. You know, like 90% of the world is like operating at average anything. So I'm just looking for these exceptional experiences and exceptional people and exceptional creations in the world. But yeah, the reason why I'm not an overachiever when it comes to the physical body, I think, is because I was raised in a household where our intellect was seriously prioritized, and your mind and your intelligence and your academic performance was everything. And then I'm a deeply emotional person, and so I've learned how to master my emotions. And so I have come to implicitly trust my mind and my emotional intelligence to get through life and to get through the world. But when I was talking about learning to surf, and I was talking with Megan, your wife, and she said that she's done it and she's enjoyed it, but it also comes with a big risk, and she's been in a few close calls, and that kind of physical risk doesn't make her happy. And I thought to myself in that moment, yeah, because in that moment you're relying solely on your body. You have to have such an implicit trust that your body is what you're going to use to survive. Whereas for me, it's like I've always just relied on my mind and my heart to survive in life and to get through. So I look at other people who are extremely physical and typically mesomorphs who are very, very embodied, and they thrive being in their body and they love being in their body. And often they feel like their body will help them survive, and they can't rely on their mind in the same way. Like they wouldn't be able to go into what I call intellectual warfare with someone. Because I'll be like, I'll fucking mentally kickbox my way out of this fucking argument. Just try me. Just try and fucking outsmart me. And I'm going to sit here in the most passive aggressive way possible, but I'm going to fucking kick your ass mentally. I'm going to win. And so mesomorphs are very intimidated by that quality because it's been used against them a lot. A lot of people with ectomorph minds do get very defensive and aggressive with their mind and their intellect, and they can outsmart people. And so they can use that in a very manipulative way to get their way, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I've never had that confidence and trust in my body. I've never had these experiences where I'm really experiencing my potential and my strength and training in a way that's very suitable for me to develop that trust that I can trust my body. That's an amazing feeling.
Yeah. And of course, that's also important. Like we've tried a couple of different things, and you kind of already knew what would be suitable for your body, but we've, there's a trial and error process there to really figure it out. And for anybody that's listening, like your body doesn't require, more naps or like 5 sets of bicep curls and then a cheesesteak or something. But like, it requires work. It's just about deciding what type of work. Some people run. I have no problem with people that run, but we like to lift weights. That's okay. That's okay too, So, I think often that process, like the thing that you described about walking into a standard gym, that's literally some people's personal hell. Like, especially people that don't exercise or that don't live in their body, like you said, it's like, how are they supposed to cope? Like, you're literally asking them to walk in the ninth circle of hell to then try and figure out what type of exercise they should be doing. There's a very high barrier to entry often. So,
yeah, it's definitely a very uncomfortable place if that's not your place. But I feel that a lot, like you go into these other communities where everyone's been doing that thing. Like you go into a golfing community and they're all golfers and you're like, ooh, I personally hate golf. But you could go into a diving community and they're like that, or you go to a yoga community and they're like that, or you go to like a knitting club and they're all like that. Like the depth of knowledge that those people have can make you feel like an outsider when you don't know. And then we have a world that glorifies perfect bodies and typically one range of body So if you're
it's
not that,
it's not perfect bodies. It's like, this one style of
yes,
of human, and it's like, it doesn't
exactly.
make any sense. Yeah, go on.
Exactly.
Sorry.
And all other
Yeah.
bodies are not as
Mm-hmm.
good. You're unworthy
Mm-hmm.
naturally because you don't have that genetic shape. So then
Yeah,
you go to the
it's
gym where
ridiculous.
everyone's glorifying that shape and you're not that, and you don't know what you're doing, and you don't know how you like to train, and you don't have support, and you don't have the right motivations and reasons. And you're right, it's fucking hell. And it will perpetuate those worst feelings about ourselves by not getting us to where we, reinforcing the wrong things.
Fully, and that's kind of the idea behind this course this mini course that I just released is, I've recognized that, and obviously not everybody lives down the street from me, or I can't take that many clients, so I'm putting it out there to kind of just like reframe your idea. So it's like, there's like these short meditations that I recommend that people do before they train or before you go to the gym, to kind of just literally like shift perspective on what you're about to go do, so that instead of going in there and feeling like an outsider or like you don't belong or something like that, you go in there with the intention of whatever that specific intention of the day is, to stay focused on that thing, to be mindful on that thing as you're training, versus what the person next to you is doing.
Amazing. And then tell us about your bigger course, because I laughed in my head when you said, oh, when I came out of the military and I scheduled everything. In my mind, I'm like, don't you still schedule everything, Michael? I've seen the way you run your course. Even when I come in, you're like, this should be a 48 to 52-minute workout, Erin.
And I was right.
Do you know, I got through it way shorter the other day. The first solo session I did without you, I was like, I walked out and I was like, I think, oh no, maybe it was 48 minutes from beginning to end, but on my own.
See? Yeah. Well, the bigger course, like the Composure Fitness Academy that I run, is basically walking people through kind of the process that we've been talking about here, but in a very step-by-step way. So yeah, I do look at people's schedule, and I help them like find time, because it's there in most people's schedule, to exercise, find time to meditate, find consistency in their day. There's this really funny, and I'm trying to decide how I want to say this. Like, there's goodness and badness in consistency, right? Like, you don't want to become a creature of habit, but you do want to ensure that you're doing things on a regular basis that are good for you. So it's about finding that balance with people, and ensuring that it's on the schedule. Most people live by their schedule, and I'm not going to tell them not to, unless they get to a point in their life where they don't have to. And then, I go into nutrition with people and do that, that whole game of teaching them about food, and why the food industry in general is set up in a way that doesn't really take us into account. It's about getting as many flavors in your mouth and desiring you to crave more as possible, without regard for calories or nutrition content and stuff like that. So I teach people about those things, so that we can override those desires and find some intentionality in what people are choosing to eat as well. So it's a 6-month program. It's long, but it's designed that way so that we can go piece by piece, and then actually apply it and ensure that it's sticking. So I have a group right now that we're literally at the 3-month mark here at the end of this week. And they're all different people than they were when we started. And they're going to be even more different in the way that they want to be by the time we're finished in 3 months from now. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Reaching my 6-month mark,
exactly.
I'm fucking radically different. Yeah. Amazing. Well, I'm excited for you, and I'm excited that the people that I love get to access you as well, because my referrals do not come lightly, because I really am only looking for the best at anything. So I'm a very harsh judge of things. And so when I believe in something, I really fucking believe in something, and I really fucking believe in you, Michael. So thank you. Thank you for changing my life.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for you to get back so I don't have to train alone.
Yeah. I think 8 more days or something like that. I'm counting the days as well. So
well, where you don't have to think about cheesesteaks or Target. at Christmas
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
But
I want to get home.
actually, I'm going away for my Christmas break, and I'd love for you to tell people about the gym on Lembongan and the quality of gym we get here in Bali.
Well, it's like it's one or the other. So like the island that you're going to, and I haven't been there for a while, so I haven't worked out at that gym for a while, but it's literally like you walk in and it's a tile floor and there's some weights. And when I used to go there, there was literally just a car axle on the ground that you could, that nobody was, it was still greasy. And then as you work your way back to the further corner, like the floor just starts to disappear. So it's like tile, and then it's like what used to be tile, and then concrete, and then rocks, and then it just literally just fades out in the corner. So like you have, everybody's working out at the by the front door because there was no, I don't know what was back there. You couldn't, it was too dark to see.
Fucking hole in the ground. And a car
Yeah, so I think you'll love it. Yeah.
That's the top 10% of gyms that I'm looking for. That's the classy experience that I need to feel good about myself.
Well, there's a good gym now. As I think you're going to go to the good gym instead. There's a nice air conditioned space that you can go to. So
yeah, well, do you know what, Michael? Even if there wasn't, I'd still be training. And again, that's testament to you. I would fucking go to that gym with a hole in the ground and a fucking car axle because of who I am now.
I think you would, because you've literally said to me, like, if I miss a day, like it's just not the same. And you're not training every day of the week. I think it's important to note, like it's, 3 days a week. Sometimes 4 if you feel like you need it. So it doesn't take a lot, but once that momentum is going, it's something that it's fuel.
Yes.
It stops being a burden.
Yes, and I know I'm a very habituated person too, so I have to be careful with my habits because it does take me a lot of momentum to start. But once I start, I can get in a good groove and I can be super consistent. So if I start to slide and I get in the wrong groove, then I end up very consistent in that wrong groove, and it takes all that energy to get started again. So that's why knowing myself so well, I'm like, okay, get the support you need from outside of yourself. Like I just don't believe that I can be this empowered without having had invested in you. Like it's such an important part of my success is actually getting the support that I need to do it. Like we can't do these things on our own. Very few people can do these things on their own. It's like, fuck, we're all here to help each other. We're a community. What are the gifts I have? I'll support those people. What are the gifts you have? You support us. Like we all share our gifts and we all excel. That's the only way we're going to excel.
Yeah, I fully think that paying for a personal trainer is much more value than paying for cable or whatever else. People spend the money already on stuff that's not giving them the value they want. And you recognize what adds value to your life and decide to show it with where you spend your time and money, which is, I wish everybody chose that way. For what watching people buy these gifts in Target today, I'm just like, God, you don't want stressful. That.
The world doesn't need that. The person that's going to receive that doesn't need that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a killer, isn't it? And I've been part of that too. Fuck, I was one of those once upon a time. But when you wake up from that and you live minimally, and like consumerism fucking kills my soul in the same way that suburban life kills my soul.
I get it. It's just all part of the journey, like everybody will figure it out at their own time. And it's just, I literally feel like a fish out of water now here, and I'm in the town that I grew up in. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Michael. It's been so awesome. I'm going to share all the links, but how can people find you?
Instagram is Composure Fitness. Website is Composure Fitness. Everything, Facebook, Twitter, I think LinkedIn. If you search Composure Fitness, I'm up. I've been around long enough that I think I've SEO'd all the places, so I'm very easy to find. Or Michael Gregory. Yeah. So
amazing. Well, I'll definitely provide everyone the links.
Awesome. Thank you for
Thank you so much.
Inviting me. This was fun.
Thanks. Now hurry home.
Yeah, I will. Take care.
Thanks, Michael. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Sex and Healing, and as always, I'd love to hear from you. Please find me on Instagram and come and share the love. Let me know what you got out of this episode. Let me know if you were challenged or if you have any questions. As always, I want to know it all. If there's something that you'd love to hear about or someone you'd love me to interview, please let me know. And please share this episode with anyone that you think would love it. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And until next time, I am sending you all of my love. Mwah.